Okay, last couple of weeks we were talking about theology and our worldview. Hope you have read the notes and thought through it. We want today to talk about philosophy and our worldview. But before we start, I wanted to come to two passages. One is Galatians chapter 6 verses 14 and 15. We all know that. Paul said, "But God forbid that I should boast. Our glory save in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, by whom the world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world." That's the right perspective in which we must look at the world. We must look at the world as something that is crucified to us. And the world should see us as people who are crucified. Because Paul said, "I will glory only in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, by whom the world is crucified unto me." The whole world and all the system thereof is crucified. And crucifixion means put to death almost, it's a form of killing people. The most cruel way of killing a person was by crucifixion. So what was he saying? He was saying that as far as I am concerned, all the glory and all the possibilities and the potentials that are all in the world, he sees as something that is crucified, useless, absolutely useless for him. How does the world view Paul? Same way. The world will say that as far as we are concerned, you are useless for us, you are a crucified person, you are on the cross. So that's a great statement. That's a great statement. When we look at the world through our theological lenses, we can see the world only as crucified, nothing else. That's the only way. That's the only way we can look at it. We should see it that way. See, if the world is attractive to us in any way, there is a problem. We have not achieved the Christian worldview. We need the world only because we need to earn a living and all that. The primary use of this world for us is to win people for the Lord. Only here we can do that. So that's our. The second verse I wanted to look is very similar, Philippians 1:21. We all know that verse also. Paul declaring his philosophy of life. "For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain." If the world is crucified to you and you are crucified to the Lord, then this formula is right. For me to live is Christ. The only reason to live is Christ. The only reason to live is Christ. Actually, to die is gain. A true Christian, if he has to make a choice between death or life, he has to make the choice for death because that's what's gain for him. He can be with Christ. All sorrows will be over with all the saints. That's going home and all. But there is one reason to live on the earth. That is to live. For me to live is Christ. Not live for Christ, but live is Christ. Life is equal to Christ. It's as if Christ is living in us. Those who are from Kerala, they can understand this a little better than people from outside because we have the rubber plantation there, We buy the seeds of good marthandam rubber and plant it. When the saplings come up, what do? We take the skin of the 105 or some better brand. We, then graft it to the marthandam rubber. martandam rubber, and then once the graft is fixed, you chop off the martandam rubber right above the grafting. Then that martandam skin sprouts, they grow. And if somebody come and ask, hello, commercial.
Want me to put it on silent?
I can put it on silent. So you ask that if the rubber could speak, you ask the rubber tree, what are you? It will say, I'm 105. RR 105. Actually, the root system belongs to the martandam. Only that little part is 105. But if you ask the whole rubber tree, I live for 105. See? I draw water and fertilizer and everything for 105. My identity is lost. I am no more martandam. Everybody calls me, what rubber? RR 105. RR 105. That's what the real Christian is. We have to lose our identity. Christ is grafted into us. It's 105. It's Christ living. That's what Paul said. I no longer. That Saul of Tarsus was chopped off. It's Christ living. We have to come to that's our philosophy of Christian living. That's our. When you theologically you have the right perspective, then it is for me to live is Christ, not live for Christ. Most of the Christians live for Christ. But somebody whose worldview is correct, for them to live is Christ. There's a whole difference between living for somebody and living is Christ. We are equated with Christ. So that's a point where we have to come. Now most of the good Christians, the best Christians, they say, yes, I live for Christ, brother. I live for Christ. No, for you to live is Christ? Well, that's very difficult. I'm still living, not Christ. I'm still living. I do what I want. I have my plans, I have my purposes, I have my, future decisions and everything. But I believe the beneficiary is Jesus Christ in some way. But Jesus is not interested in that. Jesus is not interested in that. Jesus wants us to say that for me to live is Christ. Live is equal to Christ. There is no for and to and all. It is equal to Christ. When we live, for us to live is Christ, then only death is gain. Then only death is gain. As long as we are living for Christ, death is a loss. Because we are not only living for Christ, we are living for I'm living for my wife, I'm living for my children, grandchildren, I'm living for so many people. So it's a loss. Everybody is suffering loss. If I'm living is Christ, then when I die, I go with Christ. So there's no loss. It's a gain for me because for me to live is Christ. I'm with Christ. So our perspective of life and our perspective of death will all change when our theological, that framework we put on. We look to the world through our right theology. Okay. So now we have come today, we wanted to start thinking about philosophy. Philosophy. Yes, many people don't like even the word philosophy. Because the image philosophers give is that they are unpractical people. They are armchair professors who only talk, won't do anything. They are the most impractical people. Any problem comes, they can give a lecture on it, but they cannot fix the problem. They are far from reality. That's the image. But that's not true. That's not true. That may be because the philosophers we met are not real people. Philosophy discusses, or the key question in philosophy is what is real and what is true. What is real and what is true. Remember, Pilate asked the question to Jesus Christ, what is truth? he had no time to listen to the answer. What is truth? What is real? The key idea in Christian philosophy is Jesus Christ is the truth. Jesus Christ is the truth. That's what Jesus was going to say to Pilate. I am the truth. And if you knew who I am, you would have refused to deal in this case. A creature sitting to judge the Creator. But he didn't want to hear it. Oh, he said, what is truth? He walked away. So Jesus Christ is the truth. Logos of God is ultimate reality and the ultimate truth. The Logos of God, that's our Lord Jesus Christ, the communicating agency of God. He is the ultimate reality and the ultimate truth. So philosophy for us is it's Jesus Christ. That's why C.S. Lewis said Christianity is Christ. Christianity is Christ. There is no Christianity without Christ, because Christianity is equal to Christ. Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, I am the door, I am the shepherd. So you take away Jesus Christ, in Christianity there is no truth, there is no way, there is no life, there is no door, there is no shepherd, there is no vine, nothing. Christianity is void. It's a big zero. It's a religion without any reality. So Christianity, philosophically speaking, Christianity is Christ. So our philosophy is the philosophy of Jesus Christ. So Christian philosophy is actually living Christ. Living Christ. That's what Christian philosophy is. Because He is the ultimate truth. But then philosophy always faces a great practical problem. Philosophy, that is the problem of assumptions. Problem of assumptions. In philosophy, like in many other areas, we all begin with assumptions. The difference between Christian philosophy and worldly philosophy is simply a matter of assumptions. Christian philosophy begins with certain assumptions, while world philosophy begins with certain other assumptions. That's what it is. And we have to be humble enough to admit that, yes, we also operate on assumptions. Because Hebrews 11:6 says that he that cometh to God must believe that
He exists.
God He is. That's an assumption. Yes, there is a person called God. He begins his search for God, but that's the assumption on which he has to. If he has the assumption there is no God, everything is chance, his search will not be for God. His search will be for chances. What chances? What chances? Was it the Big Bang theory? That's a chance. What was the chance? It's a chance of the survival of the fittest. What is it? What's the chance? They will be talking about chance. So assumptions is a problem. If our assumption is not correct, our philosophy is going to be wrong. That throws us out of balance. It does. Because when you say if your assumptions are wrong, then your philosophy will be wrong, then you ask the question, where do I get the right assumptions from? Are assumptions something you can buy? Are assumptions something that you learn in classroom? If you learn in classroom, are the assumptions really? So that's a problem, that we have to deal with. Yes. So the problem of assumption is a big problem. Yes. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verses 4 and 5 summarizes the basic quest of Christian philosophy. We read that in our consideration of the theology also, an important passage in our study of the Christian worldview. The most important passage, I will say, is 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 4 and 5. What does it say?
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ.
See, that's what it is. We have two jobs. One is demolishing all false philosophies. Demolishing all false philosophies. Every high-minded thinking raised against the knowledge of God. That's one job. All the worldly philosophies, beginning with from where you want to go, as back as Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Seneca, and all those men you want to go. Wherever you want to go, you can go. We wanted to demolish their system of thinking because they all were against the knowledge of Christ. Our second job is taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Every thought means every branch of knowledge, every discipline of education, whether it's economics or geography or political science or it is biology, whatever it is medicine, engineering, whatever you want to call it, every branch of knowledge has to be taken captive to the knowledge of Jesus Christ. So we have demolishing false knowledge and bringing up, strengthening the right knowledge. That's a philosophical, work we have to undertake. So this whole matter of demolishing unbiblical and anti-biblical thinking of the pagan philosophy is not an easy task. They claim to be highly rational and philosophical. However, we measured by biblical revelation, that the pagan system has no truth in them. Sometimes mixed with some truth and a lot of myths. So we have to attack them. This is the job not only of philosophers or theologians, this is the job of every Christian. Paul wrote those words not to philosophers, to the average Christian in the church at Corinth. The average Christian in the church at Corinth said that your job is demolition. You have to have big bulldozers whereby you will pull down all those worldly philosophies that have been built against the knowledge of Jesus Christ. You dig it to the foundation, throw them everyone. Then you start building your Christian foundation. That is, taking every thought, every branch of knowledge captive to the obedience of Christ. The danger of getting an education from a secular campus is this. Every Christian or non-Christian going to the secular campus is brainwashed with the secular philosophy. That's what they teach there. You have to go to a Christian institution to get a Christian education where the foundation is the knowledge of Christ. Yes. But that's very difficult to convince people. Don't send your children to secular colleges and universities. Of course, Apostle Paul himself went to secular university, University of Tarsus, one of the famous universities there. So it's possible. Daniel went to the University of Babylon. Moses was taught in all the wisdom of Egypt. But you can just know that they studied there, but they never accepted the philosophy of those states. That's why they stood up. They stood out over other people. Daniel was not influenced at all. Moses was not influenced. For 40 years he was trained, but he remained a true-blooded Jew. A true-blooded Jew. Joseph was in Egypt. It's very difficult to be trained by those institutions. So I say it's possible to go to a secular university and be trained. But how many people take a stand like Daniel? Average Christian is brainwashed, totally brainwashed, with the whole system. So that you can see in second grade and third grade, social studies book also, that evolutionary, picture of where man is being developed from, and all that thing. Why they have to teach that in the social studies? It's there everywhere. Now we say the evolution of language, the evolution of medicine, the evolution of architecture, the evolution of everything is evolution. Because the secular world has taught our people to think in line of evolution. That's the only way. The word creation cannot be used anywhere in the classroom. So we are given this great job, demolition. This is called the demolition derby. You have seen, some of you may have seen the demolition derby, where there will be hundreds of cars. The object of every car is to demolish the other car. So you can hit anywhere you want. But make sure your car is not demolished. So finally one car will survive, all the other cars will be gone. And that one car that survives is Christianity, the Christian philosophy. That's where our job is. So that's not simple. That's not simple. Paul tried to do that at Athens. He demolished the Athenian philosophy. Wherever he went, that's why people were saying what? They were turning the world upside down. These people are teaching us customs that are not acceptable to us. He was teaching a new custom, a new lifestyle, a new value, a new God, new everything. People knew that. Paul and his team, they were not doing a whitewash. They were not just, covering up some of the cracks. No, they were demolishing and rebuilding. It's demolition and rebuilding. So you cannot live a Christian while your philosophy is unchristian or non-Christian. No. Philosophy has to be right. So all pagan system, we may say there is some truth, yes. It's just like that, the garbage we throw away will have many vitamins and minerals in it, but nobody wants to take them. That's exactly the way I see. You have rotten tomatoes and rotten, spoiled milk and all. They still have their vitamins and they still have their minerals and all that in it. But who wants them? Even the dog won't lick them. So we throw them away. The world is like that. The world is like that. The demolishing itself is a difficult task. To bring all disciplines of academics to the subjection of the knowledge of Christ is yet more difficult. Christology measures the truthfulness of any system of knowledge, any system of knowledge. Christology is the measuring, because you bring them under the knowledge of Jesus Christ. It's not very easy. The Hindus, how they do, when they build a home, whom do they first consult? Vastu. See, that's their system, right? The Hindu philosophy of life. Even though they are engineers, even though they may have, PhD in civil engineering or architecture or whatever may be, when the building is to be constructed, first they bring the Vastu man. He will take a look at the plot, and then he will decide where the kitchen should be, where the living room should be, this should be, that should be. But what about the Christian? Vastu. See that? Now this is a problem. This is a problem. The world has so successfully demolished Christian philosophy of life, and they have established their philosophy of life, the Hindu philosophy of life. When a child is born, almost everything. A Christian son, they are doing the same thing. It's sad, isn't it? But Bible demands us that all philosophies of life must be subjected to the philosophy of Jesus Christ. Yes. In Colossians 2:8, another important passage for our consideration, it's talk about philosophy, worldly philosophy. Verse 2, Colossians 2:8 reveals the essential nature of pagan philosophy. There are four things that are very clearly stated by Paul. Number one, they are based on deceit. They are based on deceit. Number two, they are based on human tradition. They are based on human tradition. Number three, they are based on elemental forces of the world, or the elementary forces of the world. They are based on the elementary forces of the world. Number four, they are not based on the knowledge of Christ. Will somebody read Colossians 2:8?
Beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Christ.
Yeah. This worldly philosophy of life is built on empty deceit and human traditions, but the third one is all the more important because people think that's something very much. You know what's that? The elementary forces of the world. The elementary forces of the world. What are the elementary forces of the world? For the Hindu, it is the wind, the fire, the water, you know. They are the elementary forces of the world. They go everything around them. The fire. When they have a wedding, what they'll do? The bride and groom will walk 7 times around the fire, the elementary forces. The water they will have, the Ganges and all those holy rivers. The water is very, very important. Hanuman, who he represents? The wind. The wind god. See that the elementary forces, how it comes?
Stars.
Yes.
Stars. Stars.
Yes, stars. The stars. And all these things, the elementary forces. And Paul says we need to demolish them one by one, attack them. Now they are giving PhD in astrology. They say astrology is a science. Getting a PhD in astrology. Can't think of it. So all these things, they are the nature, they are essentials of the pagan philosophy of life. They are based around these things. So what are we supposed to do? Demolish them. Bring all our thinking in line with the thinking of Christ, the philosophy of Christ, the knowledge of Christ, the logos. The lens of Jesus Christ, Christology has to be put upon us and look at them. Then only we understand how misguiding and how demonic these things are. They are demonic, truly. We Christians are having that warfare. Didn't Apostle Paul said that? We do not wage war against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and all these wickedness in the, high places. Constantly we are. The stars, talk about, you take any magazine, what do you see? This week for you, right? Even sometimes when I was 13, 14 years old, my father has sent me for something to another home. That was a home of one of the elders of the church, and I saw they had a cow, and the cow had a coconut shell on the head tied, and what they call them, shankar, shell, yeah, that was tied. So it was fascinating to me. Why should the cow should have a coconut shell? And well, then I came back and I talked with my father. Said that I saw this one. They said this is to protect the cow from bad omen. Born